want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Colin Kaepernick, who's been denied a job in the NFL for 3 years, held a workout on Saturday, but it was not the one the NFL originally organized. They called him earlier in the week to do so. It was very last minute. It was supposed to take place at the Atlanta Falcons training facility, but then it had to be moved to a high school named after Charles Drew. 25 teams were supposed to be at the Falcons workout, but about 8 teams made it to the secondary workout. What the heck actually happened this weekend? First off, I'm going to show you what Kaepernick had to say after the workout. Press play.
It's important that y'all are here. Y'all been attacked for the last 3 years. Y'all continue to be attacked. We appreciate what y'all do. We appreciate you being here today. We appreciate the work you do for the people and telling the truth. That's what we want in everything. I've been ready for 3 years. I've been denied for 3 years. We all know why I came out here, showed it today in front of everybody. We have nothing to hide. So we're waiting for the 32 owners, the 32 teams, Roger Goodell, all of them to stop running. Stop running from the truth. Stop running from the people. We're out here, we're ready to play. We're ready to go anywhere. My agent, Jeff Nally, is ready to talk to any team, interview with any team at any time. I've been ready, I'm staying ready, and I'll continue to be ready. And to all the people that came out here today to support, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. To the people that aren't here, I'm thinking of you. I appreciate you supporting from where you are. We'll continue to give you updates as we hear. We'll be waiting to hear from Roger Goodell, the NFL, the 32 teams. We'll let you know if we hear from them. Ball's in their court. We're ready to go.
Howard Bryan of ESPN was actually there in Atlanta. He joins us right now. Howard, this was crazy. I said from the outset that the die was cast the moment this workout was scheduled. Here's Colin Kaepernick, settles his lawsuit back in February. You don't hear from the NFL for 9 months. All of a sudden, they get a phone call. Hey, workout, Atlanta, 3 p.m. Saturday. Be there. I mean, that's essentially how crazy this was. Execs didn't know what was going on. Teams didn't know what was going on. Workouts normally don't happen on a Saturday, which is a busy day in the NFL. The second busiest day of the week normally happens on a Tuesday. Then we have the drama with who's going to be there, who's he throwing to, who's going to be leading the workouts. Is the media allowed? Is it private? Is it open? Who's shooting video? And then, of course, this waiver. This was a mess that the NFL knew was going to be a mess the moment they suggested it.
Well, not only was it a mess, Roland, but at the start, the minute last Tuesday when the NFL called the Kaepernick team and told them of this workout, the very first thing the Kaepernick team said was, well, wait a minute, we haven't heard from you since the winter. How about we take a little bit of time, step back, and do this the right way? How about we do it next Saturday? So we have, or next Tuesday, which is a work day for the NFL, because on a Saturday, you've got the coaches preparing for the next day's game. You've got the GMs preparing for the next day's game and the next week's game. And you've got all the head major scouts watching the college football games. The NFL said no to that. The Kaepernick team came back and then they counted, well, let's do it. If Saturday is such a magic day, let's do it a couple Saturdays from now so we all have time to hammer out all of these details. The NFL said no, essentially gave them a 2-hour window, not a 3-day window, a 2-hour window from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to say yes or no, and then that's when the scramble began. That was on last Tuesday, and by Thursday, it wasn't even clear who was exactly going to be running the workout. That's when they got Hugh Jackson, the former Raiders and former Browns coach. And so the 4 days leading up to the workout had been this rolling negotiation that never quite got settled.
And when you talk about these various negotiations, people out there are saying, other sports commentators and journalists are saying, Kaepernick, he should have actually just done it. He should just sign the waiver. Now, as we understand, Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, as well as yourself, y'all been breaking this down, that the waiver the NFL wanted him to sign is not the traditional injury waiver.
No, it's not the traditional injury waiver, and the Kaepernick team says that they offered a standard waiver in place of this draconian waiver that covered virtually all scenarios that the Kaepernick team whether it was injury, whether it was discriminatory questions, whether it was discomfort with any other of the details that were in the agreement, that they had given away all rights, that they had waived all rights to take action against the NFL in order for this workout to take place. For example, one of the key questions is, at the end of the workout, there was supposed to be an interview session with NFL executives, or the NFL, whoever was there, the NFL representatives. And suppose, just hypothetically, which really would have happened, if an NFL representative had asked Colin, are you planning to kneel if you are admitted back into the NFL? And if he said yes, and no team then chose to sign him, he would be unable. He would have waived his right to take any action against the NFL, even though that's a discriminatory practice. So naturally, they did not sign this, and it ended up being an issue that killed the deal at the last minute. And when I talked to Kaepernick's attorneys, they told me that they were under the impression that all of these details were resolvable until they weren't, up until about an hour before the workout was supposed to take place. The NFL just wasn't going to budge from a couple of those points.
Now, I was watching First Take ESPN earlier, and on that show, Stephen A. Smith said clearly Colin Kaepernick and his people had this thing planned out in advance, the second workout. But I talked to Colin Kaepernick's team. I was told point blank that they had 25 minutes on Saturday, that they had their Know Your Rights campaign a few weeks earlier in Atlanta. They put calls out. The community responded. The community said, we got a location, Charles Drew High School. The people who did security for Colin Kaepernick said, don't worry about it. We're going to call other people. They're going to handle security. They were able to check the media and other people who were coming there. And so Cap's team said, no, we didn't sit here and have this thing all planned out. It was not our idea to have a second workout. They said that they sprung to action, and it was black people, the community, who stepped up and quickly mobilized to make this thing happen. You were there. What happened?
Well, there are two things about this that were absolutely phenomenal. One of them was out at Flowery Branch, about an hour northeast of Atlanta, where the Falcons facility is. There were about 2 to 3 white protesters, anti-Kaepernick folks out there from the beginning of the morning. At about 10 a.m. for a 3 p.m. workout, they were out there standing. 3 American flags, 1 sign that called Kaepernick an un-American loser, and another sign that just said stand for the flag. And across, there were 2 pro-Kaepernick supporters. Within an hour and a half to 2 hours, there were nearly 100 Kaepernick supporters out there, and mobilized by the Kappas, by Colin Kaepernick's fraternity. They were out there mobilized in full force when this thing got moved. And by the way, it's incorrect that this had been planned. They had begun, the Kaepernick team had begun by Friday afternoon, Friday night. They started to think that this thing was going sideways. So they did begin to mobilize on the ground somewhere Friday mid-afternoon, Friday night. By Saturday, it was clear that there may be a need. By about noontime on Saturday, it was clear that the ground forces that Kaepernick had absolutely went into action. But yes, what they did was probably a 12 to 15-hour mobilization to go find a new location, to go find a school, to get an email blast out. It was essentially, it was almost like a grassroots political campaign, the way they were able to get boots on the ground and find this new location to make sure that at the end of the day, no matter what happened with the NFL and with the Kaepernick team, at the end of the day, there would be a workout, there would be video, and now that video has been sent to all 32 teams.
And that is the key right there. The Kaepernick people said we do not trust the NFL. The NFL did not want media there. Also, the NFL said that the Kaepernick team wanted Nike to be there to shoot a promo or PSA or commercial. Nike came out with their own statement saying that was absolutely false and want a retraction. But the shooting of video is critically important because the Kaepernick team said if the NFL is the one who's going to control the video, I don't know what they're going to send out. And the bottom line is they could say he had arm issues. They could have only shown the passes that were dropped, things along those lines. But here's the thing, Howard, you tweeted this. Because the media was allowed in, because there are media outlets who actually live streamed the whole deal, now the entire world got to see it. And here's what's hilarious. The NFL Network, which the NFL owns, has been using the very videos that we all saw. Had the original rules existed, the only way the NFL Network would have been able to show that video is if it was given to them by the NFL. So the very network that the NFL owns is taking advantage of the video that he wanted everybody to see.
And then being upset that the workout took place at all. So on top of that, this was the thing that Kaepernick's legal team had said to me as well, that they did not think. They said, of course, with these two entities suing each other back and forth for the last couple of years, why is this such a big deal? To think that to have an extra video crew there would be a non-starter, would be a deal breaker, was preposterous to them. And that they are very upset that it feels like they are receiving the brunt of the negativity for this not taking place. They didn't think that these issues were unresolvable. They figured, what's the big deal? Having a camera crew there, it's not like it's an entire takeover. It's just an independent crew that you would have thought that with all the bad blood between these two sides, it wouldn't have been a big deal, and it turned out to be a deal breaker.
This is last question for you. I know you have to go. You got lots more reporting you're doing. Here's what jumps out to me, Howard, as the most important thing. It's all about narrative. The Kaepernick people understood that. The NFL wanted to control the narrative. But by him saying, allow the media in, allow the cameras in, then guess what? It's shared narrative. The NFL has put out all this information. They said, oh, the waiver was not really that big of a deal. Now we're actually seeing Pro Football Talk, as I said, got a copy of the waiver. And they said it is totally different than what is normally signed. Also, yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to say it's completely different. And the biggest difference in the waiver, the difference between the standard injury waiver and the waiver that the NFL wanted Kaepernick to sign, was that Kaepernick was signing away all rights. And those rights also include, let's suppose you get an injury settlement later on. Let's suppose that something takes place that is an actionable offense that took place at this workout, that he would have had absolutely no rights whatsoever. He would have had no recourse. And so this really was sort of a kiss the ring situation where it wasn't just enough for him to come back to the NFL. It was certainly to come back on one term and one term only, and that's the NFL's terms.
Last question for you, and this is why I think all of this is so important. I'm looking at all these people who are offering commentary on television and offering radio. And the reality is this boils down to an issue of trust. The NFL rushed this thing. They wanted it to take place in a handful of days. And here are two sides that simply do not trust each other. And when you have two sides that don't trust each other, transparency and honesty are the two most important things here. And the thing that I am most bothered by are the people who all of a sudden the onus is all on Colin Kaepernick, saying he shouldn't have worn a Kunta Kinte shirt, that he should have went ahead and signed the waiver, that he should have went ahead and done the workout. And also saying that, and this is where I take exception with one of your colleagues, Stephen A. Smith, good friend of mine, fellow journalist, saying, I don't believe he wants to play football, wants to be a martyr. I've talked to Colin Kaepernick. He wants to play football. You don't work out for 5 days a week for 3 years if you don't want to play football.
Well, and there's also something else to that, Roland. You also don't put yourself through this level of humiliation, because that's also what's happening, is that I think that anyone who's been in the public eye, you've been there, I've been there, we've all been in these situations where you have the public attacking you. You wouldn't do this to yourself if you really didn't want to play in the National Football League. Let's also remember, this is a closed business. It's not like, okay, if ESPN doesn't want me to work for them, I can go call the New York Times or the Washington Post, or I can call the Boston Globe or somebody else and find some place to work. There's only really one place for him to work at the highest level in the world, and it's right here. He put himself in this situation because he wants to play, but he doesn't want to play on his hands and knees.
Folks, I want you to follow Howard Bryant at Howard Bryant Books on Instagram, hbryant47 on, I'm sorry, 42. My bad. First of all, I'm giving you a shout out. Calm down. hbryant42 on Twitter. Again, there are a lot of people out there who are pontificating. Howard, folks, was there on Saturday, was the only ESPN reporter on the ground the whole time. And so, Howard, we appreciate you joining us on Roland Unfiltered.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, folks, I want to go to my panel here, talk more about this and break this whole thing down. Dr. Avis Jones-DeWeaver, political analyst. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for the EPA. Also, Dr. Julian Malveaux, economist, president, Emera Bennett College. This is what just jumps out at me. And when I saw my man Stephen A. commentary, Avis, on Saturday, I said, I'm going to hold my tongue until Monday. For me, when I offer my perspective, I am doing so based upon a set of facts. And the reality here is now we see, 48 hours later, what the NFL's real intent was. This is just very basic in terms of how I look at this. So if I settle on in February, March, I hear nothing. April, I hear nothing. May, June, July, August, September, October. Then all of a sudden in November, my phone rings. Workout, Atlanta, 3 p.m., Saturday, only day. My first instinct is, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Why am I all of a sudden getting a phone call? I've heard nothing from you for 9 months about a workout. I've played in the NFL. His agent knows the system. They know that workouts normally are held by teams on Tuesday or Wednesday. They know that Saturday is the second busiest day for all teams because it's either a travel day for road teams or you're going into the hotel for a home team because you're getting ready for the Sunday games. Then, once you say, hey, this is a workout, I ask the question, okay, who's going to be there? NFL says, we're not telling you. I'm sorry. So the Kaepernick people put a statement out saying, we look forward to the general managers and the head coaches being there, knowing full well that's who determines who gets signed. And then we know the GM and the head coaches are not going to be there because they're getting ready for the game on Sunday.
Right.
So now I'm like, okay, I don't understand what's going on. Then it's, well, who am I throwing to? I don't know the receivers. Who's leading the workout? I don't know who that is. And so once you start going into this and keep asking questions, then it's like, okay, now I'm confused. The Falcons workout. Okay, you want to have the Falcons facility, which is an hour away from the airport. Okay, got it. It's an NFL facility. It's closed. But then who's going to be there? Then all of a sudden they say, oh, 25 of the 32 teams are going to have representatives there. Well, who the hell is representative? I mean, if I go to a job interview and you tell me, Roland, want you to come in for an interview, who am I talking to? Am I talking to the person in HR or am I talking to the president of the network?
Right. There you go.
The HR person, I know ain't hiring.
Right.
It's the president of the network.
Right.
So I want to know those things. So you go through all of that. Then you get to Saturday, and they still want you to sign the waiver. And then you don't. And then the narrative is he walked out.
Right.
He canceled the workout.
That was the plan from the beginning. This whole thing was a setup.
Yeah.
There was never any intention to honestly provide him an entree back into the NFL. They already tried the whole Jay-Z thing and saw that that went over like
A lead balloon.
a lead balloon. Thank you. That's a very nice way of saying it.
By the way, TMZ as well as XXL, they're reporting that sources close to Jay-Z are blaming Kaepernick. Let me say this to the camera. No, here's the deal. Jay-Z, if you have an opinion on the Colin Kaepernick workout, step up and publicly say it. Because if there are people who are saying things that you don't believe, correct it. Well, let me say this right now. If that is your point of view and you don't correct it, then what they're reporting happens to be true, which is another issue. Because that's what this boils down to. That again, everybody wants to sit here and condemn Colin Kaepernick now and say, well, he should have gone through it, done it anyway.
Nope.
Lies.
Why am I going to go through with something that is a backdoor tip for me to sign away the potential? Because see, here's people don't understand. He settled the lawsuit.
Right.
But Colin Kaepernick could file a second lawsuit saying that since the settlement of the lawsuit,
right,
there's still collusion going on.
And that was probably, I believe, the whole impetus for this whole thing. They wanted to figure out a way in which they could protect themselves from a second lawsuit.
Get him to agree to a workout.
Get him to agree to the workout. Hope that he would sign that waiver. Hoping that he was that desperate. And then at the same time, they set this thing up so that they could always pin the blame on him. Because if he didn't come to the workout, they would say, well, he doesn't really want to come back to the NFL. If he refused to sign the waiver, well, he's not really serious. If he came and even signed the waiver, they could still say, well, you know what, he's not good enough, because they didn't want to have any sort of documentation of how well he did there. I don't think there was ever any honest attempt to bring him back into the NFL. I believe this was an entire charade from the beginning, and I believe that JC might have been in collusion to create this whole situation.
Julianne.
This is what you call a hot monkey setup. I mean, because the other thing, if you wouldn't tell him who he's going to be passing to, it could have been somebody, I don't mean to be paranoid, who would have injured him.
No, or who can't catch the ball.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you want to know I got some quality receivers, so guess what happened? On his own dime, he flew in his own receivers for the workout, saying, I don't trust who y'all got. I want to bring in some cats who I know can catch the ball.
The NFL wanted this black man to come to them on his knees.
Yes.
They wanted him to come humble. They wanted him to come, Massa, I really want a job with the NFL. Colin Kaepernick doesn't have that in his DNA. It's clearly that's not in his DNA, or he never would have kneeled. But they set this thing up, as you said, Avis, so everything you did was going to make him wrong. Everything you did was going to make him wrong. But we have seen this treatment of especially black men, black women, but especially black men in public space, of the need to humiliate.
Yes.
The need to put you back in your place. He had the cajones to sue them, which a lot of folks wouldn't have done, and he won. Or he got a settlement. I don't know if he won, but he got a settlement.
Or got a settlement.
So he had the nerve to do that, the temerity to do that. They, frankly, are still annoyed. And one of the ways to make him go away is to say, oh, we're going to have this opportunity for him to work out. Well, if they really want to see him work out, Brother Man, as our brother from ESPN says, has been working out 5 days a week. Send the camera to his workout spot. If you really want to see him work out, don't set up some phony thing as they did.
Mustafa, it's very interesting to me. I've heard people, very smart people, say Colin shouldn't have settled. That he should have taken this all the way. He should have exposed all of this. But the people who are saying that are not cutting him a check.
That's right.
Hello.
For real.
Right.
So first, we don't know what the settlement was.
Right.
Okay. And we know it's between $1 and $10 million. All right. Let's say it's $5 million. Colin has his Know Your Rights campaign. Okay. So clearly, he has lawyers who said, Colin, we could pursue this. We can keep this thing going. There's also legal costs. He has to pay attorneys. And so he made a decision to still settle. And so it's amazing to me how folks who got no skin in the game are very easy to say what he should and should not do. But we know right here, though, because the NFL executive who was there said clearly he has or still has an elite arm.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, and also by showing the workout, showing the 55-yard pass in the air, showing all those different things, we know they could not say he's lost an edge. Now, NFL, you got to deal with the reality. You kept saying, oh, how... Now we know talent has nothing to do with it. Now the ball is in your court.
Yeah. I mean, I just appreciate Colin so much. One, because I'm out there around the country. I see folks who are actually doing stuff in the community, and he has continued to do that, you know, year after year after year. I appreciate that he and his team were smart enough to frame the proper narrative and make sure that people couldn't get over that way. But we also need to actually share a little bit something different about what's going on. Colin has now become one of the most famous quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. He left the game. Well, he didn't leave the game. He was pushed out of the game when he was in the top tier. They've shown that he still has not only the arm strength, but I was watching his feet, because that's important also. And he could move well still. So he's still got the skills that are necessary. And when you have become one of the most famous quarterbacks, can they really actually allow him to come back because he's going to stand up and do what's right on social justice issues, on civil rights issues? So they got a problem with that. And as I've heard you and others share with folks, there are 32 billionaires who are actually the drivers of the NFL. So if this one individual black man can garner this much attention, can really frame these disproportionate impacts that are happening inside of our communities, then this truly is about power, and it's about those 32 other individuals who didn't have enough power to actually completely annihilate this brother. And for me, that's what's really going on.
So let me unpack even further, because some of y'all might be saying, I don't understand why so much attention on Colin, because you're saying Kenny Stills, who still is kneeling, got traded from the Miami Dolphins to my Houston Texans. He played Sunday. Eric Reed, who was at the workout Saturday, who flew back in time for his team meetings with the Carolina Panthers. They played the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. Eric, who also protested, is still in the league. Malcolm Jenkins, Philadelphia Eagles, who protested, still in the league. Michael Bennett protested. Now with the Dallas Cowboys, was with the Seattle Seahawks, then went to the Patriots, now with the Dallas Cowboys. He was protesting until he went to the Cowboys. So you might be saying, I don't understand. Let me go back. Kenny Stills is a wide receiver. Eric Reed is a defensive back. Malcolm Jenkins is a defensive back. Michael Bennett is a defensive end. The quarterback position is a much different, peculiar position. Why is that? If you had to establish the hierarchy of an NFL team, it really is owner, management, head coach, quarterback. Depending on the quarterback in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, put him above the head coach. So the quarterback position is unlike any other position in the NFL. It is the one position closely aligned to ownership. Why do you think when Cam Newton was being drafted by Carolina, old boy, old school, racist Jerry Richardson called him in and said, I don't want no tattoos for my quarterback? Not a wide receiver, not a defensive end, not a linebacker, but my quarterback. Because the quarterback is the premier position in the NFL. Many of you may not recall when the strike took place a couple decades ago. Guess who were the first players to cross the picket line? The quarterbacks. That's what ended the strike. The NFL knows the quarterback is different. I recall Sterling Sharp when he held out with the Green Bay Packers. Who was the quarterback who said, it's time for you to come back to camp? Brett Favre, the quarterback. A few years later, another Green Bay Packers wide receiver did the exact same thing. Brett Favre said the exact same thing. See, the quarterback position is that unique in the NFL. And so the owner knows full well, I can't have a renegade quarterback because that person is aligned with me. So the reason the NFL is so sensitive to what Colin Kaepernick is doing and why they are making an example out of him is because he plays the quarterback position. Let me also remind all of you, what was the one position that was the last holdout for the black athlete? Quarterback. It was the position that we were told we could not play. Even though Grambling, Florida A&M, other HBCUs, they are the originators of the pro offense. The black quarterback could not play. In fact, Grambling and Florida A&M set up their offenses to specifically create a similar scenario where their quarterbacks could play the next level. But the NFL refused to play black quarterbacks. If you were the black quarterback, it was You had to have the intellect to read the defenses, to understand what was going on. They said we could play every other position besides that. On defense, what was the quarterback position? Middle linebacker. That was the last position that we could play. We could play the speed positions, wide receiver, defensive back. We could play offensive line, defensive line. We could play running back. But they said on defense, y'all can't play middle linebacker. And on offense, y'all can't play quarterback. You need to understand the history of the NFL and what is going on here. The reality is, what they don't like is that Colin Kaepernick refuses to say Toby. And the reality is there are lots of people who are in media, who are black, who have said Toby. There are individuals who are on social media who have said Toby. Because what they're saying is, do whatever you need to do. Bend over, bow down, buckle, give in order to play in the NFL. But why is it that some of us don't have the courage to stand up to these individuals? I recall a certain player called last name McMahon. Remember him? Chicago Bears? Wore a headband that said Roselle. Thumbed his nose at the NFL, at the commissioner, did whatever he wanted, led the Chicago Bears to a Super Bowl. Do you know what he was called? Eccentric. He was called a renegade. Was he ever kicked out of the NFL? No, he wasn't. It's interesting that same team has a trash quarterback from North Carolina who can't play a lick. They have a Super Bowl quality defense. But they literally are going to lose because they will stick with a loser quarterback than sign somebody like Colin Kaepernick. Folks, we deal with facts, and we understand the facts in this case here. And the bottom line is this here. There is no other reason that Colin Kaepernick is not in the NFL other than the fact that he plays quarterback and he dared to challenge a country when it came to the police brutality and the killing of black men. This has nothing to do with the anthem, has nothing to do with the flag. What it has to do with is institutional racism in this country where people are more concerned with a piece of cloth as well as the hurt feelings of police officers than they are with the First Amendment. You cannot praise the symbols that you say Colin Kaepernick was against, such as the flag and as well as the anthem, if you can't praise the First Amendment that the man used, and that is the right to protest. We'll see what happens next. I doubt very seriously that any team is going to call Colin Kaepernick because the last thing they want is Kunta Kinte playing quarterback. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, as the marijuana momentum continues, our friends at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for the hemp CBD investment. That's right. If you want to take advantage of this great opportunity, you need to do it now because it won't last much longer. If you don't know, I'm talking about the hemp plant, the good cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Now, if you don't know, hemp farming is now legal in the United States, creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. It is an investment opportunity, and that's where the folks at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords. You can get in on the action. As hemp continues to change the economic landscape, 420 Real Estate is allowing you to chase the American dream. The best part, you can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. That's right, $200 up to $10,000. Now, you must do it now before the fund is closed. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.
Malik Kelly said that she
is just so tired of racism. You know what that means?
No. What does it mean, Roland?
Obviously, you don't watch this show enough. Folks, roll it.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, girl.
Yeah, illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
All right, folks, this is the 11-minute video. We're not going to play all of it, but a black man was trying to just throw out the damn trash. And some crazy-ass white woman rolled up on him. Let's play.
I'm sorry? What are you trying to say? I can't throw away the trash?
You can't throw away your trash in our bins.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Could you please leave me alone or I'll call the police? You're harassing me. You are harassing me. Thank you very much.
It's 911.
Okay, I will. Got a racist lady here.
That's a big mistake on your part.
Oh, okay. Call. Look. Throwing away the trash. You know, you're going to be instantly famous. Hi. You're going to be instantly famous. You know that, young lady? Come on. Here, let me close the door for you. See how much of a gentleman I'm being for you? Florida. You're excused.
What's your name and what are you doing?
Please. You're excused, ma'am. You're
work
harassing
here?
me. You are harassing me. I will call the police
Call the
if you don't
police.
leave. Okay?
Call the
Thank you.
police.
What is your name?
Martha. What's
Show me your
name?
license. Do you live here?
Show me your license.
Show me yours.
Show me yours and I'll show you
Yeah.
mine.
Wow. This is Florida, folks. Yeah. Here we go, Martha.
We have to pay
Vero
extra
Beach.
for people to come clean
Okay.
out.
And we pay extra too. All right. Why do you don't think I live here? Because of the way I look?
Because
Why?
until 2 weeks ago, I was president of the Homeowners Association. And to my knowledge, I know everybody who lives here.
Okay.
That's the only
So
thing.
why did you assume that I don't live here because you don't know me?
Because there's only 42 buildings.
Only 42 buildings. You knew every single person in 42 buildings?
Where do you live?
Huh? Do you know every single person in 42 buildings, man? Thank you very much. I rest my case. Do me a favor. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stop with the fake laugh and just go. All right?
It's not a fake laugh. I think it's
Enjoy your day.
funny. I mean, we have this happen all
Kelly, this is an 11-minute video. It's not until a white female neighbor comes out and goes, "What are you doing?" The guy lives around here, that the woman backs the hell off. This guy, first of all, if I was him, I would call the cops on her ignorant ass in the first 2 minutes. But this is literally the harassment that black people have to deal with just for being black and just for throwing the trash out.
How much of a life does this woman not have to mind the business of someone else doing something as simple as taking out the trash? Like, and she tried to prove her point or, you know, justify her questioning by saying that she used to be president or whatever, the home association, and it's like 42 or so buildings or homes in that area. But one, she said former, which means that you don't need to know this information anymore. You don't have the right to ask this person anything about your neighborhood anymore because it's none of your business anymore. And then secondly, you're telling me that you know the owners and residents within 42 establishments in this neighborhood. I find that extremely hard to believe, especially considering that she really couldn't even give us a reason as to why she was asking him about his business in the first place. So she just needs to go on somewhere, you know, back to her home 1 of 42, and just mind her business. It costs absolutely nothing to mind your own business. It is free. One of the few things in this world that is absolutely free. Just do it. Leave people alone. It'll help you out.
It was trash. It was trash. And she literally was blocking him. She was blocking him from driving away.
It's a disgrace. It looked like the woman wanted a confrontation. She wanted to exude whatever power she felt she had. I actually found it a bit shocking for her. I think she said she left the homeowners association as she was president at that 2 months ago. I can only imagine the decision she was making as president, because she pretty much knows all 42 residents that are in there. And what it sounded like to me, she was basically saying there was nobody black on the roster, right, until she left. And then some African Americans moved in, which is really unfortunate. Again, this is what we have to deal with daily. What we have to do is keep doing what we're doing, horizontally showing their ignorance, and hopefully it brings a bright light to a better solution for a safer tomorrow.
There are going to be more stories like this, Malik, and the bottom line is because you got white folks who want to use their white privilege to harass black people because essentially they want us to be like in South Africa, show our papers to prove we belong.
Well, I think you said that the clip was about 11 minutes for me.
Yeah, it's 11 minutes.
Yeah, so probably about 9 minutes too long for me, because after 2 minutes, the police would have been called and there would have been a lot of other stuff that you would have seen or heard on that video than the niceties that he actually extended her, because there would have been no opening of there would have been none of that if it were me. So at that point, her ignorance would have been met with my ignorance, and it would have been a different scene. But, I mean, you know, we continue to see these things. It's unfortunate. Good that it's on camera. Good that her face will be all over television, as it should be. Good for her. Got her.
Absolutely. All right, boy, hopefully she has a job. She'll lose it. It's money black and apply for it.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, it's the holiday season. This is when you think about spending time with family and friends. This is also when you count your blessings and support those less fortunate. This year, be a holiday hero and change someone's life forever. Right now, hundreds of thousands of Americans are sitting in jail without being convicted of a crime. Why? Because they lack the financial resources to pay their bail. Now think about it. If you are arrested for any minor offense, you will be taken directly to jail. If you don't have bail money, you will stay there until a court date is scheduled. That could be days, weeks, or even months. Simply put, America's bail system is broken for people of color. Freedom should be free. That's why the Ebony Foundation has partnered with the Bail Project and is sponsoring the Home by the Holiday campaign. The Bail Project has helped bail out thousands of people over the years, and with your help, they plan to get 1,000 people out of jail by New Year's Day. And that, of course, will be a great holiday gift for many families. A donation from you today can change someone's life tomorrow. Now that you know the people of color represent upwards of 90% of the jail population across the country. And without bail, nearly 90% of those charged with misdemeanors pled guilty. Now, however, with paid bail, less than 2% receive the jail sentence. Sometimes justice needs just us. To join the fight, you can donate $25, $50 or more to help the Ebony Foundation bring our brothers and sisters home by the holiday. To donate, go to homebytheholiday.com. That's homebytheholiday.com. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
You might remember Diamond Reynolds. She was the girlfriend of Philando Castile. She was in the car when he was shot and killed. She received a settlement of $800,000 from the city there. But Tom McBroom, a Rice County Sheriff's deputy and a city council member in Elysian, Minnesota, this is what he tweeted. She needs to come off county and state aid now that she has some cash. It'll be gone in 6 months on crack cocaine. Now, he is now the mayor of that city, and Reynolds is suing him. The suit alleges that his tweet was defamatory, false, and racially motivated. Sounds to me like she got a damn good case there, Teresa. Teresa?
Yes. I'm
Sounds
sorry.
to me like she got a damn good case there. The man says she's going to be on crack cocaine.
Oh, absolutely. So I listen. I hope she finds the right attorney to actually get that across. So she can reap her reward, because honestly, this is a travesty.
Kelly,
I'm just tired of racists today, every day really. But this just kind of takes the cake, considering that she unfortunately had earned that money by way of that man's actions and the county's actions, killing her fiance. I believe it was her fiance or husband, Philando Castile was.
Yep,
I mean,
fiance.
it's just sad how you have to basically diminish and defile someone's character in order to make you feel good about your wrong actions. And that's really all I have to say about that. It's disgusting.
it was about less than an hour ago. I got off the phone talking to an NFL spokesperson about what took place. They contend that negotiations were going very well with Colin Kaepernick, and it really was their insistent on having a video crew, as well as them raising issues about this waiver that led to the derailment of his workout. Now, the NFL sent me documentation that says that the waiver that they were presenting Colin Kaepernick had nothing to do with him not being able to sue, that it was about an injury issue. They also said it was extremely similar language to what he signed when he participated in the 2010 NFL Combine. All of this has been going back and forth since what took place on Saturday, when they had something scheduled, when they had a workout schedule. They in my conversations with the NFL spokesperson, I was told that they reached out to Colin Kaepernick's people on Tuesday, that 2 NFL teams were interested in working Colin Kaepernick out. But it still begs the question, why do they go through all of this for just 2 teams? I want to bring in my panel right now. Joining me is Kelly Bethea, communications strategist, Teresa Lundy, who also joined us, another communications specialist, as well as Malik Abdul. He is a Republican strategist who joins us as well. And so first, I want to start with you, Teresa. This to me was totally bungled from the beginning. Even though my conversation with the NFL, which was on background, laying out these details, what I still don't understand is why go through this huge hoopla over a workout if just 2 teams were interested. If the 2 teams were interested in Colin Kaepernick, those individual teams, 2 out of 32, could have easily called Colin Kaepernick in for a workout. There would have been no need for this spectacle that it turned into. And so it still raises some alarms for me in terms of what this was really, really all about.
The Colin Kaepernick narrative, where it's like they're trying to stay into their advocacy and criminal justice battle that he's going through with his own opinions, and fighting the good fight with the NFL. But it's also looks like it's trying to dispel rumors that he no longer wants to be in the league. And so when we see Colin and his entire team putting on this this whole charade, I'll just say this whole charade that's saying he is back on the field, he is fighting the good fight with the post statement because this workout never went through. It just shows that he's still trying to stay relevant, because again, the fight for him is to stay relevant and not to get back on the field.
I disagree with that completely. I disagree with that because we saw what happened when Nike came out with their ad. He's very relevant. I mean, it's real clear. He's extremely relevant. The issue still here is why, Kelly, the NFL, go through all of it to organize a league-wide workout if only a couple of teams made an inquiry. The NFL should have said to those teams, you are more than welcome to bring him in for a workout. I'm just still perplexed that 2 out of 32 would be interested, and then you would go to this huge workout.
Yeah, it's all for show, specifically on the NFL side, if anything, because in terms of their interaction with Kaepernick and the settlement and all those things, if anything, it's the NFL that's trying to stay relevant in this situation because, like you said, Kaepernick is going to be relevant whether he's on the NFL roster or not. If he gets in the NFL, he'll be really relevant in terms of his ability actually staying the course. Like, he has not deviated from his athletic ability at all. If anything, from the stats, it looks like he's gotten better over the past 3 years that he hasn't been on a team. Versus the NFL, whose base, whose money and everything has kind of been on the decline in the 3 years because of Kaepernick. So if anything, the NFL had to put on face to, look good for the public, regardless of whether there was only 2 teams. But at the end of the day, this situation should just be a matter of either put Kaepernick on a team or don't. Don't dangle the carrot before the horse and just act like, this is going to be just enticing for him. He's just going to keep trying and trying and trying. There's going to be a point where he's not going to be able to anymore, and that's going to be the NFL's fault because he shouldn't have been kicked off in the first place. So I disagree with the... I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
No,
finish your point.
I was just saying I disagree with my colleague in terms of Kaepernick staying relevant, but at the same time, this entire predicament is just ridiculous. Either add him or don't. He's more than qualified. Put him on a team because that's what he wants.
This is what it boils down to. It's very simple. Either you possess the talent to play in the NFL or you don't. And if you have massive distrust on both sides, obviously, there was a lawsuit here, but that's what it boils down to. I don't understand why it's this hard.
Well, I don't think it's really that simple if we're talking about business. Yes, you may be qualified for the job, but, there are other factors other than just your talent and whether or not you would get the job.
Such as?
And, well, you could be a rapist and be very talented and not have a job in it. Well, I'm using that as an example of
why.
But there could be any. Roland. Before you go there,
one second. No. Hold up, Mellick. You use an example of a player who has committed a crime. There are players in the NFL who've committed domestic violence. They're still in the NFL.
Yeah, black players.
Colin Kaepernick. Hold on. Colin Kaepernick has never been arrested.
Nope.
Colin Kaepernick has never been in trouble. And so what does it say that the NFL is very easily willing to give somebody a shot who beat a woman as opposed to a guy who took a knee?
Well, that's been a consistent conversation in the NFL, in the sports industry in general. In Colin's case, I'd push back on your notion that somehow because he's talented, that means he's not guaranteed a job. And I think that's what a lot of people
Well, first of all, no, hold on, Mellick. No one is guaranteed. No one is guaranteed a job. But fact are fact. If you are better than 2/3 of the existing quarterbacks of the NFL, that means that you are being purposely denied. So, yes, it's not about talent. and that's the point.
Well, no, for the most part, the overwhelming majority of the discussions about Colin haven't been that he's not talented enough to play amongst the rosters of players that they have out now. The question is whether or not he's guaranteed a job. So for months leading up to this Saturday, leading up to this Saturday workout, what we've seen from Colin is him posting on social media, "I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready." Well, he had the opportunity on Saturday, and you spoke with the NFL yourself. So this isn't second, third-hand information.
No, well, I actually spoke with both sides.
Okay, and you spoke?
And the issue is that Colin Kaepernick's team said that the waiver was an issue because they felt as if they would not be able to file legal claims later. And numerous lawyers, not even on his side, said it would be legal malpractice to have your client sign that waiver.
Well, that the waiver is an issue. That's something that's on the legal side. But we don't even have to talk about the legality of the waiver or anything.
Actually, you do, because that was the reason the workout didn't move forward.
But Roland, that is part of a larger story, and what we're talking about with Colin Kaepernick. It's not just.
No, it's not.
Well, yes, it is, Roland.
The waiver. No, it's not. The waiver was the reason they chose not to move forward with the workout. It's not a larger story.
How you started
the waiver. The waiver is tied directly to the workout.
How you started this segment is talking about why would the NFL go through all of this if it really was about two teams. So to add
actually.
Okay, I mean, I'll just let you finish my points.
I laid out several different things I was told. No, I'm telling you what I started with. I started with laying out what NFL spokesperson told me that covered a variety of areas, including two teams, including videotaping, including the waiver.
Right. So it's not just about the waiver, which is what I just said. It's not just about the waiver. It's a couple of issues here. But you said that it was only two teams. Well, they said, based on what they told you, they started out with two teams, but apparently weren't there 20 or so teams that were actually going to be there? So it's not like they just stuck with the two teams. They actually went even further and invited more teams there who were willing to participate. And on the subject of the the video crew, I don't know.
The point still is this here.
Is it normal? Is it normal for players to bring their own video crews when they're doing a workout or a combine? Is that normal?
First of all, the NFL conceded there was nothing even normal about this entire deal,
and it wasn't.
So you can't even use the word normal because there was nothing normal about it.
It wasn't.
So
the bottom line is? But if we're complaining while he's being mistreated,
I'm not complaining. I'm stating what happened, and the bottom line is that this was a PR disaster from the get-go because what they should have done, and even when I talked to them, I did not get a good enough explanation why they didn't go through all of these different negotiations before announcing the workout.
So you don't think that Colin erred at all? You don't think that Colin erred at all? That everything?
I think that I said that the problem with this whole issue was from the outset. How it transpired, the short window, all of those different things, that was the fundamental problem. Teresa, you want to make a comment before I go to my housing story? Go.
Yeah, I was going back to my original point. This is all to stay relevant because anybody, if we're involved in a legal situation with Colin Kaepernick's situation, that this should have been handled early on. It was not handled early on, thus caused the cancellation on Kaepernick's end, which means to me, it just shows, yes, being in PR, this is a stunt that we do every day for different type of clients, where we have to start to see what makes sense and how does the client stay relevant in that cycle. So now we're
but it's not even the client staying relevant.
I absolutely believe
the NFL, Teresa, the NFL.
Because I bet you
here's the deal.
It's about him going out and doing another, training up to the workout.
Being woke. He was woke.
No. Hold up. First of all, his camp said they may put on their own workout at the NFL meeting in Palm Beach, Florida. Guess what? They can't say they're not going to be there.
10 leading Democratic presidential contenders took to the debate stage last night at the Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta. A lot of attention was focused on Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who was in first place in Iowa based upon recent polling, but he, of course, is not doing well among black voters. A lot of time was spent on disparaging Donald Trump, but you also had candidates who sort of went after each other. Harris against Gabbard, Booker taking a shot, a how high shot at Joe Biden. Here's a roundup.
President Trump has dramatically changed America's approach to our adversaries by holding summits with Kim Jong-un, getting out of the Iran nuclear deal, and at times embracing Vladimir Putin and other strongmen. So let's talk about what kind of commander-in-chief you would be. Senator Harris, North Korea is now threatening to cancel any future summits if President Trump does not make concessions on nuclear weapons. If you were commander-in-chief, would you make concessions to Kim Jong-un in order to keep those talks going?
With all due deference to the fact that this is a presidential debate, Donald Trump got punked. He has conducted foreign policy since day one, born out of a very fragile ego that fails to understand that one of the most important responsibilities of the commander-in-chief is to concern herself with the security of our nation and homeland, and to do it in a way that understands that part of the strength of who we are as a nation, and therefore an extension of our ability to be secure, is not only that we have a vibrant military, but that when we walk in any room around the globe, we are respected because we keep to our word, we are consistent, we speak truth, and we are loyal. What Donald Trump has done, from pulling out of the Paris Agreement, to pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, to consistently turning a back on people who have stood with us in difficult times, including most recently the Kurds, points out that Donald Trump is the greatest threat to the national security of our nation at this moment.
But would you make concessions to North Korea to keep talks
Not
going?
at this point. There are no concessions to be made. He has traded a photo op for nothing. He has abandoned, by shutting down the operations with South Korea for the last year and a half. So those operations, which should be, and those exercises, which should be active, because they are in our best national security, the relationship that we have with Japan, he has in every way compromised our ability to have any influence on slowing down, or at least having a check and balance on North Korea's nuclear program.
Senator Harris, this week you criticized Mayor Pete Buttigieg's outreach to African-American voters. You said, quote, the Democratic nominee has got to be someone who has the experience of connecting with all of who we are as the diversity of the American people, end quote. What exactly prompted you to say that, Senator Harris?
Well, that was asked a question that related to a stock photograph that his campaign published. But listen, I think that it really speaks to a larger issue, and I'll speak to the larger issue. I believe that the mayor has made apologies for that. The larger issue is that for too long, I think, candidates have taken for granted constituencies that have been the backbone of the Democratic Party and have overlooked those constituencies and they show up when it's, close to election time and show up in a black church and want to get the vote, but just haven't been there before. I mean, there are plenty of people who applauded black women for the success of the 2018 election, applauded black women for the election of a senator from Alabama. But, at some point, folks get tired of just saying, oh, thank me for showing up, and say, well, show up for me. Because when black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth in America, when the sons of black women will die because of gun violence more than any other cause of death, when black women make 61 cents on the dollar as compared to all women who tragically make 80 cents on the dollar, the question has to be, where you been, and what are you going to do? And do you understand who the people are? And I'm running for president because I believe that we have to have leadership in this country who has worked with and have the experience of working with all folks. And we've got to recreate the Obama coalition to win. And that means about women, that's people of color, that's our LGBTQ community, that's working people, that's our labor unions. But that is how we are going to win this election, and I intend to win.
I wanted to return back to this issue of black voters. I have a lifetime of experience with black voters. I've been one since I was 18. Nobody on this stage should need a focus group to hear from African-American voters. Black voters are pissed off, and they're worried. They're pissed off because the only time our issues seem to be really paid attention to by politicians is when people are looking for their vote. And they're worried because the Democratic Party, we don't want to see people miss this opportunity and lose because we are nominating someone that isn't trusted, doesn't have authentic connection. And so that's what's on the ballot, and issues do matter. I have a lot of respect for the vice president. He has sworn me into my office as a hero. This week I hear him literally say that I don't think we should legalize marijuana. I thought you might have been high when you said it. and let me tell you, because marijuana in our country is already legal for privileged people. And the war on drugs has been a war on black and brown people. And so let me just say this. With more African Americans under criminal supervision in America than all the slaves since 1850, do not roll up into communities and not talk directly to issues that are going to relate to the liberation of children, because there are people in Congress right now that admit to smoking marijuana, while there are our kids are in jail right now for those drug crimes. And so these are the kind of issues that mean a lot to our community, and if we don't have somebody authentically, we lost the last election. Let me just give you this data example. We lost in Wisconsin because of a massive diminution, a lot of reasons, but there was a massive diminution in the African-American vote. We need to have someone that can inspire, as Kamala said, to inspire African-Americans to the polls at record numbers.
Thank you, Senator Booker.
I'm part of that Obama coalition. I come out of the black community in terms of my support. If you notice, I have more people supporting me in the black community that have announced for me because they know me. They know who I am. 3 former chairs of the Black Caucus. The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point is...
that's not true. The other one is here.
I said the first. I said the first African-American elected. The first African-American. So my point is, one of the reasons I was picked to be vice president was because of my relationship, long-standing relationship with the black community. I was part of that coalition.
All right, folks, there were some other issues that came up as well. Joining, of course, Greg Carr, Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University, Lon Victoria Burke, NNPA. Greg, I'll start with you. I think probably out of all the previous debates, this was probably the strongest night for Harris and Booker.
Wow. I mean, I was thinking about Warren. It seems the more Elizabeth Warren explains her policies, it seems to me the better she looks when people get past the shock at the beginning. And Bernie's going to be Bernie. But yeah, I think you're right. And that exchange you chose to show us, and I was asking you how that played in the room. Yeah, the gloves are off, man. I mean, but what do they have to lose? I mean, Booker obviously did what he did, but Biden, Biden has nowhere to go but down. You've been saying this for a long time. He's peaked. I mean, and this erosion is probably going to correlate to black people getting more and more comfortable with the idea that we do have choices. We've got to educate ourselves. We've got to vote differently. But yeah, last night, Harris and Booker definitely.
The reason I saw, if you look at, I think this debate was a tale of 2 debates. In the first half of the debate, Lauren, there was probably in the first 40 minutes, about 5 or so questions that were directed at Elizabeth Warren. I mean, I was sitting on the far left side of the floor, and you can see Andrew Yang and Tom Steyer thought were going to jump out of their suits because they pretty much got ignored for the first 45 minutes, and same with Gabbard, and they kept going back to Warren. Also, what really bothered me, I think, the most, everybody's praising the fact that you had 4 women who were the moderators, and they did a good job. Here's my issue. I think 4 people moderating a debate are far too many people.
Right.
2, you're trying to cover way too many issues. Perfect example. There was one point Elizabeth Warren was asked a question about military service. Only 1% of Americans. She's the only person who got the question.
Right.
Then they went to a question about white domestic terrorism, and Gabbard and I think Yang, or Gabbard and Steyer.
It was Gabbard and Yang.
Answered the question, and I'm sitting there going,
or was Gabbard
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hello, and then when they said we're going to move to race, then in the middle of a so-called race discussion, Biden gets a Me Too question, and they go back to race. It was sort of like that to me. What I felt was disjointed.
I thought that was actually a mistake. It felt like somebody was reading, like Ashley Parker or one of them reading the subjects, and they went to Me Too, and you're right, they came back to race. It was so strange. Frankly, this was clearly the best Cory Booker performance, right? If you don't have him standing there, and Elizabeth Warren as well, but those two senators, if you don't have them standing there, you don't hear anything about redlining, you don't hear anything about gentrification. Right. It was actually Amy Klobuchar who brought up voting rights first without being asked.
First time,
right.
According to Art Gurman, the first time in 32 debates that voter suppression or voting rights came up in the debate.
And not because she was asked about it, because she brought it up. And it was the same thing with Elizabeth Warren. She brought up redlining because she brought up redlining and housing.
Luckily for the moderators, finally housing became a question. And unfortunately, the former HUD Secretary, Julian Castro, was on the stage
because you have
who didn't qualify.
Standing there for some reason that nobody can figure out. Well, anyway, so you had those four in particular bring things up when Harris went into the thing about black women being the base, you know, the most important base for the party, the most important Democrat for the Democratic Party. She brought that up on her own because I don't care what anyone says. Now, I've seen this movie too many times. If you do not have an African-American moderator that centers African-American issues, they will not come up. Period. End of story.
Well, and also, if you notice, in every debate, the black person has to bring it up.
Exactly.
I would really like to see a white moderator bring up some questions dealing with race and not leave it to the black person.
Also, it's worse than that because the dynamics of TV anchors, of course, is that Rachel Maddow wants to talk about impeachment and Russians all night. So the first 5 questions were on Russia. Then they circled back to impeachment again. Then they did North Korea, China. So we end up talking more about foreign policy than we do domestic, which I think inherently black or white is problematic. And so you need not only a black person with a pulse beat, you need somebody who will center black issues. Because we've seen a few black moderators that did not center anything black. Okay, I mean,
it was. I mean, first of all, Buttigieg mentions Maynard Jackson in his closing statement.
Right. As a local leader. It was even then.
First of all, his staff did a good job of briefing him on the issues. But the thing that still bothers me when we have these debates is that you have moderators who are not paying attention to where they are. How are you sitting
in Atlanta?
How are you? No. I'm about to go even more specific.
Right. Yeah.
How are you sitting?
Right.
In the Oprah Winfrey soundstage.
Right.
Come
on. On a lot owned by an African American, Tyler Perry, who invested $250 million into this studio, and you do not have a real discussion about black folks and access to capital. You don't have a real discussion about how do you use your political power to drive that. That's part of Buttigieg's plan, okay, and some of the other candidates as well. And you have examples of Maynard Jackson, African Americans getting 0.0012% of all city contracts. He becomes mayor in '73, and look what he did with the airport. And then followed by Andrew Young, followed by Maynard Jackson, followed by Bill Campbell, Shirley Franklin, Kasim Reed, now Keisha Lance Bottoms. And same thing in the TSU debate. Literally across the street from Texas Southern University was the CUNY Homes, a public housing complex. Right. How do you, and that's what it aggravates me because, you're over here in North Korea, in China, in Venezuela, when there are substantive issues. And I dare say the most interesting part of the debate is when they were talking about black stuff.
Exactly right.
And it got cut off. Go to a break. I'm sitting like, oh my God.
So wait, we saw the same thing at NABJ. I think it was Kirsten Welker. Right. I mean, we saw that.
Hillary Clinton about the damn emails.
About the emails, right? And that's why I'm saying there needs to be a come to Jesus behind the scenes where we're not having this ridiculousness play out again.
Here's what needs to happen.
I mean,
here's what actually needs to happen. When this debate was announced, when this debate was announced, it was announced, Greg, as the Washington Post and MSNBC are the co-hosts along with Urban One.
And where's the Urban One?
Precisely. Now, in the first two, now first of all, y'all, I ain't hating, I'm stating. In the first press releases, Urban One was supposed to air it on their Radio 1 stations and then put it on their digital properties. The last several press releases, I heard them mention Urban One.
Right.
Last night, when they came out and announced who was presenting it, Urban One wasn't mentioned. Here's the fundamental problem right here. The Congressional Black Caucus, they've got their debate coming up on February 25th in Charleston, South Carolina. I had a conversation with some of the CBC members last night, and here's the issue. Part of the problem is that you have these 8 black cable networks that are sitting on their asses on the sideline and not being engaged in the game.
Very much.
I will name them again. You have black-owned and black-targeted. TV One, sister network is Clio TV. BET, BET Her. You have Revolt, you have Aspire, you have Bounce, and you have OWN. I'm sorry, I don't understand why the black-owned and black-targeted networks don't come together and say, we're going to put, as a consortium, we're going to sponsor the debate.
Absolutely.
We're going to see the 8 black networks should be the sponsor of that February 25th debate in Charleston, South Carolina. That debate shouldn't be on, and if a CNN or MSNBC or somebody else wants to air it, fine. But those networks should control the damn moderators, control the questions, so you're getting a substantive conversation. So part of the problem here is that the black networks are sitting on the sidelines and unwilling to get in the game.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, 2 of them you named, Oprah Winfrey Network and BET, now that Tyler Perry has a much closer relationship with BET, you would think that that would be non-negotiable. They would start with that. I mean, even last night, they're sitting in Atlanta. But, you know, it's interesting, Roland, because it makes me think about this, listening to you and Lauren talk, and, you know, knowing that you understand the way that you understand the intricacies of how the political machine works. I wonder how shocked people will be when the primaries start and the percentages of people who get certain demographics vote may not match up with the way things have been polled or reflect the things that are discussed in the debates. I mean, Buttigieg is polling at 0 in South Carolina, so we kind of know what to expect with that. But I wonder, because the ground game of some of these folks, I think about the Sanders campaign in particular, I don't know that some of these same people who are asking about impeachment and Russia and the Ukraine will be shocked to find out when the votes come in that the things they were asking about won't be reflected in the exit polls when the people vote differently than they.
That happens every time. That happens every time because first of all, let's just be real. Nobody votes based on foreign policy. So we spend half the night talking about China and North Korea, and impeachment is a domestic issue, but really we're talking about Ukraine and Russia. So I get that Maddow, and I love Andrea Mitchell and Rachel Maddow. But their expertise is typically wanting to talk about impeachment and foreign policy, right? So I knew when I saw those 2 moderators what type of evening it was going to be. Then when we get to domestic, you know, there's like this need to, and no offense, because we all have our pet issues. If I'm one of the moderators, I'm not talking about any of the stuff they're talking about. You know, I'm going to keep it all basically domestic. But you knew, too, with 4 female moderators, you're going to get a Me Too question. You're going to get a women's issues question. You get reproduction rights. It's all good.
And
but you're in Atlanta.
And I have no problem with that.
Right.
But again,
I don't either. But
the city you're in, the number of black people who are sitting in the room, and yeah, folks, I'm there on the floor. Sitting on that floor was Congressman John Lewis, Ambassador Andrew Young. You had state reps. You had Thurman, of course, who is over the county there, county CEO. You had the district attorney there. You had Mark Morial, Derek Johnson, Derek of the NAACP. You got Sharpton. You got all these folks who are sitting in the audience. And again, it is maddening, but I will say it again. Let me say this again before I go to a break. And the only way this changes, let me be real clear, is when black people who have media properties stop feeding black people entertainment and actually, for one damn night every 4 years, have the guts to sponsor our own debate. Some of y'all, yes, that was a town hall between CNN and TV One in 2016. I didn't want to do it with CNN. I told Alfred Liggins we should do it ourselves. We didn't need them to have to do it. And that, to me, is the problem. And that is what is angering me about what is going on. Black people, we actually have the power. The largest delegation in the House Democrats, the Congressional Black Caucus. Trust me, African Americans can go to Tom Perez and look him in the eye and say, award one of these debates to a black network. When ABC had the debate, Univision was sitting on the stage. Yes. Jorge Ramos was sitting on the stage. Right. But the problem is that it's a little hard for black networks to do that when you don't even do black news. 1,344 hours a week, not 1 hour dedicated to news. So let me go ahead and say this again, okay? We cannot blame the Democratic Party for black networks not sponsoring a debate, because they turn the debate over to the networks. We can't blame anybody else. It's black media folks who need to step their game up and actually do this. And that, to me, is part of the problem. And you're going to see, and you would have more questions that are being asked, and it wouldn't be filtered through a mainstream media prism, because even when the CBC has that debate on February 25th, because it's not going to be black media actually conducting it, it's going to be filtered through a mainstream media prism. Wow. And if there's another story that's a big story that day, something blows up in Europe, guess what's going to be the lead questions? Those particular issues. And folks, that's the difference when you have black folks who understand their power. And trust me, all you black networks, you can live without your entertainment ratings for one damn night every 4 years. It's not going to somehow destroy your business model if you can't show a sitcom or an award show or a drama or a comedy for one night every 4 years. It's only our country. All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, let's talk marijuana. The folks at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for this hemp CBD investment. That's right. If you want to take advantage of this opportunity, you need to do it now because it won't last much longer. Now, if you don't know, I'm talking about the hemp plant, the good cousin to marijuana, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Also, if you don't know, hemp farming is now legal in the United States, creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. Now, it's an investment opportunity for all of you, and that's where the folks at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. As hemp continues to change the economic landscape, 420 Real Estate is allowing you to chase the American dream. The best part, you can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. That's right, anywhere from $200 up to $10,000. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Of course, Arikana Chiambori Quayle served as ambassador to the African Union for 3 years here to the United States before she was let go. The African Diaspora Congress has an online petition demanding her reinstatement. They say she was fired because of influence and pressure exerted on African leaders and people by the former colonial powers of Europe. And now, of course, we had the ambassador on a couple of weeks ago after she, of course, was terminated, and she says that the pressure continues on her, and now folks are trying to tarnish her name and reputation. She joins us right now. Glad to have you back. So, since we last talked, what has happened?
Well, out of the blues, 5 weeks after my termination letter, there is now another communique that came out a few days ago where basically I am being accused of a slew of things. Projects that I initiated in order to deliver on my mandate, they are now claiming they were not AU supported, which is quite ridiculous. Because those projects were based on what I used to request my budget. There was no budget when I first came in, the first year. So I had to present a budget specifically stating what activities I wanted to engage in order to deliver on my mandate, which are the two mandates, promoting Africa in the Americas, as well as galvanizing the African diaspora to participate in the development of Africa. That I did. The budget was given. I proceeded with creating the programs. These programs, quarterly, I would report back to the headquarters every program that I would have implemented. The main three ones were, for example, I organized the women into an association that they called the Pan-African Diaspora Women. This was not a registered entity. It was only a social organization for the purposes of diaspora women coming to the mission and discussing issues pertaining to the women. I also created the Pan-African Diaspora Youth. This was for young people. Also, they would come and would discuss their issues. And then, of course, we did the same thing with men. I took this opportunity to educate and inform the diaspora women and the diaspora youth and the men about the activities of the African Union, updates on decisions from the African heads of states. So it was really a very dynamic group of people, but it was difficult to all of us meet at the same time on their own, as women, as youth, as men. They would then have their own sessions and discuss their issues separately. So it worked very well in terms of promoting and galvanizing the African diaspora and making everybody feel that they were part of the process. So those were three. Trying to claim that I registered them illegally. They're not registered. I simply brought the diaspora together, which was part of my mandate. The other thing they're accusing me of having done, I had a program which was a joint activity between the State Department and the African Union Mission. The young African leaders from the continent came together and spent a day with young African leaders in the diaspora. It was a beautiful event. The youth engaged with each other. It is those kind of relationships that are going to give us the results that we need. Some of them have engaged in relationships that have lasted even to this day. That is what we need. We need to engage our young people. Again, even though this was with the State Department, they say it's not part of the AU program. The other program that I implemented was Miss African Union. It was an amazing event. We brought in African tradition, African wear. It was a 5-hour event. The dancers were the ghetto kids from Rwanda. We had the Rwandese traditional dancers, the ghetto kids from Uganda, and the Ndebele dancers. Amazing, amazing evening. All the contestants wore African clothes. The judges and the contestants had to learn about Berlin Conference, the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization, OAU, AU, all the way to the African Continental Free Trade Area. It was educational. It is all part of promoting Africa in the United States, but at the same time, also promoting African textile trade and industry. All those projects, they were part of implementation of my mandate. So to then turn around and say they were not part of the African Union, that is ludicrous. Every quarter, I would report every activity. It is a requirement that I have the quarterly activity report. All those activities were reported. There was never a question of whether or not these were African Union projects.
There are 95,000, here we go to my iPad, please. There are 95,737 people who have signed this petition asking you to be reinstated. It was, the end of your term was November 1st. So they decided to let you go, and you say you continue to, they're now trying to now make these allegations. Why are they afraid of you, in your estimation?
I think what it is, it goes back to the 95,000 people who were signed. They never expected that the diaspora would come up with such numbers. They feel threatened. And then secondly, lately, the diaspora, a few days ago, they also started another petition, which they're calling FACU Must Go. I think that's really what led them into coming up with this venom. But they need to realize that the diaspora are simply expressing their anger and disappointment. For the first time, the diaspora are saying, we felt we are represented. We felt connected to the African Union. They were updated, and they really felt they were ready to move into Africa and begin to participate in building the Africa that they want. So my dismissal was sudden, and to them, they felt that the chairman simply did not care about the diaspora. So what you're seeing is the outrage from the diaspora, who really felt for the first time they had a representative who understood them, a representative who listened to them, and to have that representative suddenly taken away from them was a very painful thing. I have to tell you, some diaspora, they called me in tears. Even me, I'm surprised that I had such an impact to so many people, in so many lives. And around the globe, honestly, if the truth be told, it's quite humbling when you see the response that's coming from the diaspora. So Chairman Faki needs to listen to the diaspora. They're trying to communicate with him. And it behooves him to pay attention to their voices.
When you call, you wanted to have a couple of folks who have known you to also speak for you. Introduce yourselves.
My name is Sylvia Litana Robertson, and I was the Deputy Director for the Miss African Union pageant.
I'm Dr. Gloria Bozeman Herndon. I'm an entrepreneur, former diplomat, and I've worked very closely with Ambassador Qual.
What do you think is going on here? Why are we at this point?
It has to do with more than just this African Union situation. It's our situation in the world. Africa and the diaspora is strong and going, so you're going to have a lot of attacks. And the attack is coming from the inside. They're attacking us because they know we're powerful. Together we're powerful. Just think about the African diaspora and how much it contributes to Africa. If you talk to the man on the street, they say, look, my brother over in Washington, D.C. is going to send our family $1,000 a month. Without that $1,000, where would we be? There is a link between the Africa diaspora and Africa. And if we do not use that to the benefit of both of us, then we're going to have some issues. Somebody else is going to come in and take over that situation. So let's not be deceived. What Dr. Qual has done has been incredible, because I know this lady for what she is. In 2012, we had a leadership conference in Equatorial Guinea, and we had the best and the finest. And Dr. Qual and Dr. Qual, husband and wife, came, and they represented our health care. Now, I don't know how much you know about her, but she and her husband had 3 of the largest medical facilities in Nashville, Tennessee. This lady did not come to the African Union begging for money. She came with a whole lot of money and gave it up, sold 3. I don't know if I could have been so generous. Sold 3 of her practices, sold homes, and she has one of the largest hotels in South Africa. An African-American woman ambassador who has that. She's an entrepreneur. She's a medical doctor. And I was in Malawi with her when Melinda Gates was there, and with President Joyce Banda. She brought over a whole African mission, as well as containers of medical supplies to provide for the community. Now I'm going to tell you what kind of person would do that other than one who's truly dedicated, truly committed, and truly understanding the mission. I mean, we're not here for a long time to do nothing. I've been going to Africa for 50 years. You're supposed to tell me I don't look old. But
you told yourself.
Hallelujah. Okay. But she's given up a lot. She's sacrificed a lot. And I'm going to tell you, kudos to you, because this is only a short thing right now, and it's almost over. And it's not over until it's completely over. But what you're doing is you're moving to another level of sanctity and another level of positivism. So you've done a whole lot. I appreciate what you've done, and continue the work.
Dr. Qual, what can I say about her? If somebody doesn't have a mother, this is a lady that I would want to have as a mom, because she loves you all the same. She gives you all the exact same attention, no matter how tired she is. And for the AU to come out the way they have come out is really not fair. All the programs that Dr. Qual had put together were all towards Agenda 2063, which is an AU baby. So I'm not sure where they're coming up with this, because the Padua and Padua, all of us volunteer freely. She never pressured anybody to come out there and do this and that. All she would say is, I'm talking about this, and we listen. Those of us who want to be part of it, we ran. I did. Chairman Faki, you don't know the mistake you've made right now. This lady has galvanized the diaspora like nobody has done before. You have just started a moving train, which is not stopping. We are going forward with our ambassador, which is Dr. Arikana Chihombori Kwao. You accuse her of stealing money from the pageant. No, she didn't. I, Sylvia Robertson, was the deputy director for that Miss African Union pageant. And might I say, I'm sure you saw the videos and you're probably just kicking yourself somewhere out there. But let me tell you something. From the get-go, when she told us about this pageant, she made it very clear, exclusively clear, that the AU does not have any money, the AU does not have any budget to pay anybody. However, there's a program that I have put before you. If you'd like to go ahead with it, please volunteer your time. And we ran. She asked us to come to her home, her house, not even the AU house. Doctor and Doctor's house, that's where we went in Virginia. She served us dinner with her money, not the AU money, her money from her house. And we all agreed to say we would do the pageant because it's a passion for all of us. We are Africans and very proud African queens and kings.
They put out a statement, the spokesperson did, on November 15th, listing all of these different things. They said that they had an audit. Their team found evidence regarding, first of all, they're saying that you're putting out lots of disinformation, so this is a misleading campaign, and say that there were different things that were conducted, the following without prior knowledge or consent and against the rules of the African Union, utilizing the African Union logo, presenting themselves as official AU programs and organs, using the name of the AU, and then going on and on and on. And so in this regard, they have written confirmation from you that the aforementioned initiatives activities were her private engagements initiated by herself with no relationship to the African Union nor any of its organs. And so this was put out by, is it Eba Kalando, spokesperson
Yes.
to the chairperson for the African Union Commission.
Obviously, Eba is getting confused. How do you justify a grouping, a meeting, a social gathering of Pan-African diaspora women as an organ of the African Union? How can you classify a gathering, social gathering of Pan-African youth at the African Union mission as an organ of the AU? The same thing with Pan-African diaspora men. It's ridiculous. The other two items they have there is some electoral commission entity. I have no idea what that entity is, and they know it. There is another one called AU Trading LLC. Again, I have no idea what those two entities were, and they know it. But I told her that. I told her, I don't know where those entities came from. You're welcome to look them up. They were the names, and they happen to have an address for the AU. No idea where they came from. To suggest that I collected money from donors, which donors? You can't just make such a blanket statement. The Chevron issue, Mel Foot of Constituency for Africa, told you that the money never came to me. He received the funds a month after our event. He was supposed to pay Intercontinental, but the funds had not been paid by Chevron. When the funds finally came, they came with also his own donation for his program, the Ron Brown series. So he asked Chevron if he could just apply all the funds to his program, and he was given permission to do so. The funds never came to the AU. The funds were never meant to come to the AU. And there is written confirmation, email communication to that effect, and Eba Kalando has a copy of that communication. So all these made-up lies, frivolous accusations without any basis, is trying to hide the fact that I came to an office that was basically a protocol office, an office that was basically dead. Even the State Department, some of the staff members told me they thought the mission had closed. Many of the Congress people that I met never even knew there was an African Union mission. This is a very important office in the Americas. This is an office that can go a long way. I came in less than 3 years. I completely turned this mission around. African Union is now respected in the U.S. government. African Union is now known and respected not only in the United States, but in the Americas and the world. Single-handedly, I'm the one of the employees at the AU was telling me that if you search in social media, the one person who is consistently promoting African Union is the African Union mission through me. So rather than, instead of appreciating the work that I've done, which is what was indicated in the termination letter, that thank you for the wonderful work you have done, continue to do the good work. The question is, if October 7th, Moussa Faki felt that I'd done a good job and that I should continue to do what I was doing, what has happened 5 weeks later? Why suddenly all these accusations? Eba Kolondo was interviewed on several platforms, and she denied any other reason besides the fact that my term had come to an end. And suddenly 5 weeks later, she decides, oh, there was a problem. All of it totally frivolous. Everything I did was in line with delivering my mandate. How else could I deliver my mandate if I did not create this program?
I do want to ask you this question here, and that is, I saw one of the stories. So you, obviously, your criticism in terms of France's role, and there have been a couple of countries that based on announcements on that.
Benin? Yes, yes. Benin president is now also is talking about requesting repatriation of the country's deposits to France.
Well, that's certainly a positive advancement.
That is a huge, huge announcement, and we hope that France is not going to give Benin a difficult time in receiving and repatriating those funds. We also hope...
And how much are we talking?
Oh, my God, trillions. Trillions. It is not pocket change. That's just Benin. And remember, there are 14 countries. So we hope that all of them, Central and West African countries, can do the same. But they have to come together and do it at the same time.
All right, then. Well, look, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you for all of you who being here. And we'll see what's next. And I've reached out to them to see if they will come on this show to share their thoughts, and hopefully they'll do so.
I also wanted to just say one thing. I think as an African, I'm quite disappointed at the behavior coming out of the chairman's office. His behavior is unbecoming of such a high office. As Africans, we deserve better. And especially when it comes to the African Union. And today, in view of the African Continental Free Trade Area, trying to alienate the African diaspora is a big mistake. The African diaspora are not going anywhere. The African diaspora are the African Union. They are committed to playing their part in building the Africa that we want. So, Chairman Faki, we are asking you to please respect the office, and the diaspora are here to stay. Listen to them. They're trying to speak to you.
All right. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it just messes me up every single time. So, I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.